Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folare. Our guest this morning is Alhaji Ibrahim Modibbo. He's a political affairs analyst and a former member of the media team of the Tinubu-Shettima APC Presidential Campaign Council. A fine morning to you, Alhaji Modibbo.
Thank you very much, Uncle Yori. It's good morning, fellow Nigerians. And I'm happy to be here this morning to discuss issues of national importance.
Great. We're so happy to have you. And now, of course, right now, as you know, we're in the middle of negotiating with, NLC, to avert a paralyzing strike. And by all indications, matters seem to be very optimistic, to put it that way, so as not to be over-expectant. And where we are now is that, as you know, Labour has said that it will revert to its various bodies and indeed come back with a response. Perhaps that's even a fine place to start, because our subject matter is an appraisal, if you want, of the Tinubu administration, in the past 4 months, what has been done, and what we think of the much that has been done. As you know, with the coming on stream of a new administration, people expect to see a radical change. It's the same all over the world. The Tinubu administration came, came on swing at a very, very difficult time. But give me your impressions, given the difficulties with the world economy, given the difficulties that have been introduced as a result of the cancelling of the fuel subsidy. How well would you say the Tinubu administration has been doing, given the hand that it must deal?
Thank you very much once again. Good morning, fellow Nigerians. Well, Uncle Yori, if you look at the political climate of this country, under globalization and multiculturalism, such as ours in Nigeria, we are under no illusion as to the enormity of the myriad of problems that has been confronting this country and continues to confront this country. One of the most outstanding and worthy narratives of the Tinubu-Shettima administration, especially Mr. President, is that he has come in as a fresh breeze with no baggages attached. This is a man, to me, by my own assessment, is a politician with mass grassroots appeal, a man of conscience, and a man that feels the pains of Nigerians. As a Nigerian, he came into politics with having the background of very patriotic and nationalistic intervention in the process of good governance. Because he came and met Nigeria in a very dicey situation that is lamentable. Before his coming into office, Uncle Yori, you'll agree with me, that this country was plagued by challenges of corruption, unmitigated lawlessness, crass impunity, spiraling indiscipline, and gross and monumental security challenges that left us paradoxically poor in the midst of plenty. And therefore, he had to come in to change the face and character of governance. And in doing that, a lot of people today are feeling the pains. But this is a president that feels the pains of Nigerians. And under any guise or any situation that we find ourselves as a country, even globally, before we enjoy under certain parameters, we must have some pains. And these are the pains at the moment that Nigeria is being confronted with. And therefore, I see Mr. President as a man of uncommon grace and compassion, having come out to specifically state that he feels the pains of Nigerians and he's doing everything within the ambits of his powers to make sure that he relieves the pains that has been confronting Nigerians, especially the ordinary Nigerians. That is why today the man has not rested. Since he came into office, he has been going from one country to the other, trying to see how he could mobilize human and material resources, especially in terms of investment potentials, to see how he could bring in resources to make Nigeria a better place for Nigerians. And in so doing, I feel the pains of Nigerians because as one of the downtrodden Nigerians were under pains, it's agreed. But as I've stated, for you to have any leeway, for us to have that wherewithal of making a government stand on its feet, having been confronted by all these issues, because for long, the nation has been buckled under the full weight of ravenous and greedy political class, whose common interest is just to loot the economy and also to make self-servicing parameters. And look at the issues from any parameter of democratic practice. You'll agree with me, Uncle Lori, that Nigeria as it is today, we are on the threshold of moving forward. We're on the threshold of creating history. Indeed. I strongly believe that if the efforts of this government is anything to go by, in near distant future, we are going to see the improvement of the economy. We are going to see the issue of security challenges being addressed. We are going to see how Nigeria's potentials could be added up, especially within the economic cycle, which is biting very hard and harder, to see that at the end of the day, we have an economy that will be buoyant. The value of the naira will also crush, so that it will, the dollar, I'm saying, it will come back downwards. And even the petrol, by the grace of God, by the time this government has finished mapping out its strategies in terms of policy implementation, in terms of aggregating its own views in the economic fronts, I'm sure it will create a leeway where we have our refineries back on track with the Dangote refinery and what have you. It will team up to see that at least the issue of petrol will be addressed and that the level of, in terms of pricing, we will see a kind of reduction. So to Indeed. Me, Gori, in the 4 months or 3 months or thereabout of the Tinubu administration, I have seen a brighter future. I have seen vision. And I know that the government is out to see to the possibilities of making Nigeria a very habitable place for all Nigerians, bearing in mind that this issue of fuel subsidy removal, which is becoming a pain in the necks of Nigerians, all the other presidential candidates have actually come out to support it because they have put it as part of their manifesto. So it is never a Tinubu philosophy at all. But Indeed. Tinubu haven't come to look at the issues dispassionately and to pick up the gauntlet to say that, look, this subsidy must go. It has gone. And now, that is why today we're having the sources, especially from the subsidy removal, we're seeing how the government is trying to manage it very well. Indeed. To plug it into loopholes, to plug it into areas of palliatives, areas of concessions, areas where the Nigerian masses will benefit from the activities of governance, especially, Uncle, the issue of economy. Now, the Indeed. Economy as it is, or before the Tinubu administration came on board, we've seen how the economy has been wallowing in doldrums. We've not seen any concrete measure towards making the economy progressive. But as it is today, I can tell you that with the caliber of people that I've seen, with their experiences in art of governance and administration, with the capacity that I've seen or I've read about them, I think we're on the path to the El Dorado.
Indeed. Well,
let me restate.
Thank you.
I know that Nigerians are feeling the pains, and the president is also feeling the pains with us. It is right time for us to team up with the government, to team up with the Tinubu administration, to see how we could propel the wheel of progress for the advancement of democracy and also for the advancement of the common good of Nigerians for better lifestyle in Nigeria.
Indeed. So very well put. Thank you very much. And you started off by speaking about the political climate that we are in at the moment, where, as you know, before, yes, that might be history now, before, the inauguration, in the whole electioneering cycle, every last one of the candidates at the time for the office that President Tinubu now comfortably occupies had said that they would be doing pretty much what has been done. But it's convenient now, unfortunately, perhaps from a political perspective. After all, we've seen, some of those former contestants, they've tried to speak in very, very recent times on where we are at now. And I don't know how intelligible they have been to Nigerians. Most people saying, what was that all about again? Because the real work is being done by a person who many consider knowledgeable in this whole business of developmental economics and has a fantastic team around him. Any way you look at it, is reform-driven. But unfortunately, we have with us a situation where Nigerians, as is their right, will be in opposition every time, and there always is the danger of throwing out the baby with the bath water and overemphasizing. I think it was one other commentator I was listening to this morning on television who was saying that, are we sure we're not taking our eye off the ball of important things? Yes, he had said that in a different context. But this is the situation in which I think, and you will probably be able to relate to this as a former member of the media team of the Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council, that the real things are being done. The tough decisions are being taken. The painful decisions have not been shied away from. And I think it's up to it's really up to the communication machinery of the presidency to keep Nigerians abreast of the gains that are being made, even though because of the tight strictures, that might not easily be noticeable now. But gains are being made, no matter how microscopic, but gains are being made. Would you share that impression?
Yes, Okoyori, if you look at the issues of the complexities of a country like Nigeria, let us properly situate and contextualize the issues you brought forth with a view to having a dispassionate analysis of the situation on ground. As a scholar or a student of development communication, I strongly believe that we should target ourselves towards developing this country. Unfortunately, in my opinion, I think the machinery of government that has to do with communication has not been up and doing very well. Because the Tinubu administration has done exceedingly well. It's doing well. But are Nigerians being sensitized enough in terms of media participation? If you ask me, I will say no. Why? Because, you see, Joseph Ayana, the famous philosopher and historian, has severally been quoted on Koyori as saying, if experience is not retained, infancy is perpetual. Those that forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Therefore, we have to have experiences of people in communication. I must commend the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, in coming up from time to time to save the situation. I think the media team in the presidency should be up and doing. To me, experience matters, and I think there's lack of it at the moment. We have to come out with a very strong, formidable, experienced people in politics and also in developmental strides in terms of communication. Dele Alake, when he was there as advisor, has been doing very well. In almost every parameter of government activities, he has been up and doing. But I don't see it now. Let me...
Well, he's in a different department now. He's in a different, shall I say, part of the same whole, team, but in a different department now.
So you see, Uncle Eri, we don't have to cry over spilled milk because Dele Alake has gone. We must bridge the gaps and also shorten the distances. In doing that, we have to have people that will be supportive to the role, especially of the advisor now, of government in terms of media advocacy in the State House. 2, there must be reinvigoration of the National Orientation Agency because I strongly believe that the responsibility of informing, educating, entertaining, and also setting an agenda for the government will come also through the National Orientation Agency. And I don't think the agency has been doing up and doing. I think maybe for lack of funds or capacity, I don't know. But as I've stated, the minister, who has been an experienced person in public relations, has been coming and doing well in trying to support. I can see he has been addressing some of this thing, and I think there's need for him to do more.
Okay.
He should not leave the whole this thing to maybe the people at the State House, because to me, as it is now, there are a lot of gaps.
Okay.
In trying to build bridges, we must build them across streams and rivers. Therefore, to me, there is a need for the current advisor and also the media team with the presidency, once again, to be up and doing, and also to know the nuances of politics. Because for some time now, I can see that things are moving from the sublime to the ridiculous, where mediocrity and inequity rules. And therefore, there must be a consensus issue. There must be that. I'm becoming very emotional, Yori, because this man has been doing a lot, and I think we should not leave it to only propaganda. By propaganda, I mean, propaganda could be either negative or positive. But then, to me, let it be based on facts, factual presentation of issues, set an agenda, inform, entertain, and also educate Nigerians on the activities of the government. And I think it has been falling short of expectation. Therefore, there is the need to strengthen the media team, to strengthen all areas of mass communication that has to do with the presidency. To see that whatever activities that is being done, Nigerians are educated, Nigerians are informed, Nigerians are enlightened, and also an agenda is being set so that people will know what Mr. President is doing. Because for now, a lot of people have been saying, no, Mr. President has just been gallivanting, moving from one country to another.
Exactly. That is the propaganda. That is the propaganda that must be matched, as you are saying, that must be matched with facts, with facts. And nobody can deny really, nobody can deny that Tinubu hit the ground running from virtually, in fact, from the explosive day one, when he said that fuel subsidy is gone. That might have been dramatic. It might have astounded a lot of people. But he's since gone on from there to now begin to take on his reformist agenda. Again, look at the central bank and efforts to rejig and reform the economy, a pet subject of Mr. President. And any way you look at it, he's taken on this humongous task of, he himself, he himself spoke about changes in the Central Bank of Nigeria that are in there, and that, policies that are now going to be different from what they used to be. All this matter about shoring up, our savings, and all of that is a work in progress that very, very shortly we're going to get traction on, I think the president referred to all of this in his Independence Day speech, traction will soon be got on this. And those are the things that I think you and I were just talking about that need to be played up. That a lot, I mean, there is a gestation period. If you want a child, yeah, from when you start, it won't happen tomorrow. There is a gestation period of 9 months in the case of the human child. And so these are things that probably need to be explained more, that we really are on a different and progressive task, no matter what the opposition is saying. They can continue to say what they want to say, but you've just pointed out that there also is a need to be putting side by side with that concrete gains. The matter about gallivanting all over the place that you referred to. These are definitely moves in the right direction. There are people who don't know where the president gets the energy from the grueling campaign to from day one, being as strong as he has been on the march, so to speak. All of these, no doubt, are going to end up, positively for Nigeria. But the people, the ordinary person, the market woman, the people who are not developmental economists necessarily, need to be explained to. It needs to be broken down for them to see that there is a rainbow after this particular situation that we find ourselves in at the moment.
You see, Mr. President is a very urbane man with metropolitan standards. And therefore, he believes in trying to aggregate these standards to greater heights or greater productivity in this country. That is why we are always in prayers that whatever stumbling blocks is likely to find on his way to that progress or achieving that success, may it be turned into stepping stones for greater heights. Therefore, in seeing the activities of Mr. President at his teeth, a lot of people, especially the opposition, do not see any good in what Mr. President is doing. But I think he has been doing a lot, even in terms of fighting corruption. Unlike the days gone by, where we see people shouting about corruption but doing nothing, we have seen a country that has been guided by, lesser minds and people without conscience, stealing what they cannot even, stealing what they don't even need. Billions and billions of naira. But today, Mr. President, in a very cool, calculative, and obeying manner, is fighting corruption silently. You look at the issue of EFCC, the issue of CBN, all these people, they are removed silently without making unnecessary noise.
Indeed.
And let me tell you, it is sending a very strong signal to other people that are thinking of getting business as usual. It is not the case. I think it will be too early for us to start assessing Mr. President as it is today for barely 4 months, to look at the dynamics or operational profile of the government in terms of solid personal achievements. It has been done and it is ongoing, but are Nigerians aware of some of these issues? If you ask me, and it's my personal opinion, that truly people do not know. And even in terms of the economy, as I've stated, even the security-wise, security today, I can tell you, although there are pockets of problems here and there, which is normal. And this one, the normality that I'm talking about is that it's an inherited issue. It's not something that is that has been brought with this administration. It has been a recurring decimal. But with the team he has been able to bring to fortify the security of this country, with the officers of character and distinction within the armed forces and within the security networking as a whole, I can proudly say as a Nigerian that I'm very proud of the solid personal achievements of these people. And under their command, I see a vision of Nigeria trying to stamp out all these security threats and the problems. It is not something that is going to be overnight. It's not something that is not going to be overnight. It is something that is going to be done in phases. Progress is being done. If you look at the papers yesterday, you can hear what I mean. You can see what the Nigerian Air Force and the military have done in Borno, wiping out a whole generation of terrorists. You can see what has happened in the southeast with IPOP. You can see what is also happening in the northwest, where these bandits, kidnappers, and terrorists that have been quiet for some time have started resurging, and the military is actually coming out to deal with them. This is the kind of government that we want. This is the kind of leadership that should be given to Nigerians, so that we'll have the pride of place in the government structure of this country. I can tell you, Uncle Yori, that with time, let us give the Tinubu administration support. Let us give the Tinubu administration the time to fortify the defenses and also to make sure that it looks at all parameters of governance that has to do with economy, security, politics, and what have you. Although for now, there are some people, there are some, I don't know whether I could call them, I don't want to say little irritants, but I'm sorry to use that word. Let me withdraw it. But then, there are some people that do not say anything good in this government. And therefore, they are trying to distract the government. Let me assure Mr. President that he has our support and he should not be distracted. The government is on course, and this government,
I'm happy you use that word.
God willing, will reach
sorry, I beg your pardon, Ibrahim. I'm happy you use that word, because that's the one thing you also notice, that Tinubu and his team are not going to be distracted, it appears to people. That, look, because they arrived with a plan, they knew it was not going to be an easy plan. The president referred to that in his independence speech, again, going back there, that he feels it as well. Yes, people will say that, well, it's all right for you, sir. Me, well, look at where I am. But he said he feels it. Now, the other criticism that I've heard, one of the other, shall I say, minor ones, is that I think I heard a major opposition figure saying that because the 25,000 naira that was, granted before had now been upped to 35, is it 30 or 35,000 naira following, consultation with labor. The other thing that comes out there, instead of seeing it as having a listening president, a listening administration that will make adjustments where necessary in the interest of moving forward, I have heard that such laudable, attitudes seem to be what I think the expression was, that having not been given, deep thought. And so it goes back to what you were saying earlier about, look, people are free to critique and criticize if they will, but not very many suggestions in the way of how would you have done it, apart from playing on the pains of the removal of subsidy, the obnoxious policy of fuel subsidy. That's what you find. And, well, I suppose the negative, in a way, sort of sells, because it appeals to people who are hurting. But that criticism of, because there was an adjustment from 25 to 35, showing a lack of deep thought in these issues, I think that's one of the unkind, that's just one example of the unkind narratives that the opposition will, pursue if they are allowed to, without a sort of a rebuttal and an explanation. I think it's all about people need to be explained to what is going on.
Thank you very much. This is a question that have been well stuck in my mind, that I have been looking forward to. You see, I must commend Mr. President for his foresight and also for having a listening ear. I must equally congratulate the Labour for their understanding, for their compassion, and for thinking of Nigeria. You see, Mr. President, as I've stated, let me re-emphasize again. Time and again, we've had past governments in the days gone by that do not listen. Whatever is the process, protests and what have you, the government seems to be deaf and dumb. But Mr. President, since coming into office, he's a man that doesn't need trouble. If there is a protest and he sits down dispassionately to think about it, if he feels these concerns are genuine, he sits down and have reflection and talks about it. That's the beauty of democracy. And that is the beauty of a person who is a grassrootsarian, a philanthropist par excellence, and also a man that knows the pains of Nigerians. For him to have come out to accept that, look, Nigerians have the pains. It's not every leader that does that. We've seen past leaders, they don't care. Whether you are protesting or not, they will do as if they're deaf and dumb. They don't care. But here is a president that sat down or is sitting down. If there's any protest, he listened to it dispassionately. For us to have an increase of 35,000 naira on all platforms, I think it is a wonderful thing to do. Because if you look at the econometrics, Uncle Eri, you'll find out that if the president had given more than that, or if the increment is up to 100,000 or thereabout, believe me, the inflation that this country is going to witness, it will be unprecedented. So I think the team must have sat down to say, look, let us look at this issue. This 35,000 naira as it is now spread across board, I think it's a wonderful starting point. If by the time we've gone after the 6 months that they've stated, if there's the need for them to sit down to make the reviews, let them see the effects of the current inflation that will come about, maybe micro inflation that is likely to come out with this increase in salaries. Because truly, people are suffering. They don't have the wherewithal, for transportation, for feeding, for what have you. So this thing is good.
All of which are being addressed.
Yes.
Even the transportation issue, as you well know. Sorry to have interrupted you. These are also difficulties that are being addressed. But tell you what, my brother. Let us take a break. Let us take a quick break. So we'll be right back, and then we'll also open the phones for our viewers that also wanted to contribute to this conversation of assessing President Tinubu since inauguration. Stay with us, please.